So without further ado, let's get started. Have a seat. And you can sit, of course, however you like. Legs can be crossed or straight. And I want you to begin with actually really kind of feeling grounded. That's the other thing we're going to work with. There's my other person. There we go. So we'll be working with being grounded as well as lengthening the spine. And surprisingly, they do go together. So however you're sitting, and make sure that you can feel your sit bones. Even if you're sitting on a bolster or a chair, make sure that you can connect down to the bottom points of your pelvis. And I want you to just feel that sort of like an anchor to the earth. So when we really allow the pelvis to connect downward, it makes it that much easier to lift the head upward and let the spine lengthen. So now that you're nice and grounded, just take a deep inhale through your nose and a big exhale through your mouth. If you're comfortable with your eyes closed, close your eyes. And let's just feel into our bodies. You've already, I hope, felt into your sit bones because that's what grounded you. And then you can kind of feel into the rest of whatever parts of you are touching the earth or your mat. And then really feel into that lengthened spine and then start feeling into the periphery. So how are your shoulders and arms and hands feeling? How are the legs and feet feeling? How's your neck? How's your head? Just checking with everything. And then let's start to breathe a little deeper and a little slower. Ujjayi breathing is always preferable if you can. And then check in with your thought processes, any emotions you might be feeling. Notice your energy. And let's take a moment to set our personal intention for practice. So palms come together in front of the heart. By the way, this is kind of a little bit outside of things, but since we are doing grounding today, if you rub your palms together, this is actually very grounding energy. So if you ever feel like you need to be grounded, rub your palms together. So palms together in front of the heart. Close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And let's go ahead and set our intention for practice. And once you're very clear about what your intention is, take a deep inhale. Exhale through the mouth. Good. Release your arms so that they're just hanging down by the sides. You're going to inhale and squeeze your shoulders up by your ears. Exhale and release them. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale, squeeze the shoulders up. Exhale, release. Last one. Drop them. Roll the shoulders back. So our neck is actually just the top part of our spine. And since we're going to be working with the spine, we'll be doing the whole shebang. So the neck all the way down to the tailbone. So that's why we're kind of starting with the neck. So if it feels comfortable to you, go ahead and take your right ear towards your right shoulder. I should warn you that I am not mirroring you today. So your right is that way, mine's this way. Take your right ear towards your right shoulder. And then feel free to move the head around a little bit. Find a spot that feels really extra good or one that feels like it needs help. And then just reach the palm of your left hand down towards the floor. You're going to feel your left shoulder blade drop. And that's actually the point of this. That stretches out left side of the neck even more. Take a couple of deep breaths here. Relax the left arm, put the palm of your right hand against your right cheek and actually push the head back up. And then just roll your shoulders back. things may already feel different from left side to right side. I hope so. We're trying to make a difference. And then just gently, slowly start dropping left ear towards left shoulder. Feel free to move the head around. Find your sweet spot. And then reach the palm of the right hand down towards the floor. Again, the point of that is to drop your right shoulder blade and then just breathe. Let the right arm relax. Use the palm of your left hand against your left cheek. Pick your head back up. Roll your shoulders back. Excellent. All right, so we've already started a little bit with the neck. We're going to start moving it down from there. Let's go ahead and transition onto hands and knees. And we usually start with cat-cow stretches, so this isn't that different. I just want you to be really mindful of loosening up the spine. So sometimes we kind of use this just to see how our spine is feeling. And obviously you can do that here, but I want you to start thinking of it more today like you're manipulating the spine to make it more pliable. You know how sometimes you'll take something that's stiff and work it back and forth between your fingers, kind of, you know, bending and flexing to loosen it up. You can think of this as doing the same thing for your spine. Every time we arch our back and let the head and the tailbone come up, we're extending the spine. And every time we round the back and let the head and the tailbone drop down, we're flexing the spine. And so this flexion and extension, if we just keep it going, is really nice for loosening up the spine. Now, after you've done that a few times, if you would like to add in some other movements, this is a great time to do it. Maybe a little lateral side to side, maybe a circling of the hips. Remember, the whole thing here is we're trying to manipulate and loosen the spine and make it more pliable. So whatever movement feels good to you to do that, do it. We're going to take a couple more breaths here. This is longer than we normally spend in this pose, but it's really important. It's almost like you want your spine to undulate in a wave. And then when you're ready, finally, you can take your first child's pose. Forehead down. Hands can either be extended in front of you or they can be back by your feet. And I want you to just take a few breaths here and see if you can actually feel your breath moving down your back. The deeper you breathe in, the more the diaphragm presses down and the more your low back will start to expand. And then from here, we're going to scoot into space. And I know I've mentioned it before, but if you need to extend your arms farther out than having the elbows under the shoulders, like if your back doesn't like to arch this much, it's okay to have your arms farther forward. You still want to have your glutes relaxed, so your big toes should touch each other, but your heels should drop open. And then we just pull with the forearms. We're truly trying to pull the rib cage farther forward so that between the rib cage and the pelvis, we can have greater spinal length. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Use your strength. And then finally, your first downward facing dog. And as you get into it, go ahead and spread your fingers and plant your palms. Remember, we're also working with grounding today. Plug your hands into the earth. And then take the tailbone up and back. If you want to pedal your feet a little bit, you can do that. And then once you feel like you're good with your calves, I want you to really lengthen your spine. So downward facing dog is an amazing spinal lengthener when we allow it to be. Couple things that have to happen. Relax your neck. A lot of times people look forward and their neck is strained. Your head should be hanging. And you should be pushing through your palms so that your hips are really stretching back. Excellent. Drop down to your knees again. We're going to be going straight into a kneeling side bend. And then right from that into our threading the needle. So I'm just kind of giving you a little heads up on this. You're going to take both feet to the right. Look over your right shoulder like you're trying to see your left heel. And I want you to take 3 extra deep breaths here. So now you're opening up laterally the left side of your spine. From here, we're going to go right into threading the needle. I want you to bring your feet back to the center, and it's your left arm that's coming underneath, and you're going to press with the right arm and roll into that left shoulder blade. So everything opening on the left side first. Take a couple more extra deep breaths here. And then we'll come all the way up, hands and knees, and just pause for a breath. Then we take both feet to the left. So the knees stay in the same place, just the feet move. We look over the left shoulder like we're trying to see our right heel. Poke that right rib cage out to the right. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. Now we're stretching the spine laterally, opening up the right side. And then bring the feet back to the middle, going straight into threading the needle, right arm underneath this time, and pressing with the left arm to roll into that right shoulder blade. Excellent. Come on out of that. Give yourself a little bit of spinal movement however you like. And then again, really plant and ground your hands and take another downward facing dog. Pressing your palms into the earth, relaxing the neck and reaching the tailbone back. If you have exceptionally tight hips, by the way, or hamstrings, it's okay to bend the knees a little bit to get the hips farther back. So don't sacrifice the lengthening of your spine just to get straight legs. From here, finally walking forward to hanging ragdoll with the knees bent. Again, neck must be completely relaxed in order for the spine to lengthen. Take a couple more really deep breaths here. And then on your next inhale, you're going to come all the way up. Reach the arms up, stretch. And as you exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. And just take a moment here, again, grounding. So part of why grounding and spine lengthening go so well together is that we press down to rise up. So the more we push through the soles of our feet, the more we can lift through the crown of the head and get that spinal length that we are seeking today. Take one more breath, just really connecting downward, lengthening upward. And then you're going to step your feet to about the width of the mat. It can be a little narrower, can be a little wider. We are going to do a yogic squat, and you can support yourself, obviously, on your knees or thighs. But here's what I'd like you to be mindful of today, please. Make sure that your toes are pointing forward. Even if you can get your bum all the way down when your feet rotate out and you cannot when they're forward, we're going for the cannot, feet forward, because we're trying to lengthen through the spine. And when the glutes are tight, which they tighten when we rotate the feet out, they grip the spine. So it's counterproductive for today's practice. So just be mindful. Don't worry about how far you go. Feet forward, start to drop your tailbone. It's okay to support your weight on your thighs. Wherever you get to in your yogic squat with your heels flat and your toes pointing forward, doesn't matter, but lift your chest and breathe. On your next inhale, go ahead and come all the way back up, and we'll keep our feet about this width. I'm just going to turn and face you. And so you're going to put your right hand on your right thigh. Remember, warning, I'm not mirroring you today. Reach your left arm up. On your next exhale, go ahead and just slide your right hand down your right thigh till you get a comfortable stretch on the left side of your spine. Take a couple of deep breaths here. On an inhale, you're going to come back up. Let your right hand meet your left hand. Exhale, left hand on the left thigh. Inhaling to reach the right arm up, and then exhale, just slide your left hand down your left thigh until you feel a really nice stretch on the right side of your spine. And then just come all the way back up and roll your shoulders back. So if you're already sideways on the mat, that's great. If you're not, you may want to turn sideways because we're going to step a little wider. Not a super wide stance, but what I call moderately wide. Like my feet are wider than my shoulders, but I'm not like warrior two wide. Now you are going to let your feet rotate out. So we'll do a little bit of fascia release and spine and hip lengthening like this. Feet rotate out whatever amount your knees need to rotate to follow them. We're going to bend the knees and put the hands on the thighs with the elbows completely straight. I'd like for you to press against the inside of your left thigh as you twist and look over your right shoulder. If you want to feel more, bend the right elbow and maybe move the left hand higher up the inside of the left thigh. Left arm should be straight. You should be feeling left side of your spine lengthen and left hip opening. 2 more breaths here. Go ahead and come all the way back up, straighten your legs, roll your shoulders back. We don't want to create any tension in the neck, since that's the top part of the spine. Here we go, going down again so we can do the other side. Bend your knees, hands are on the thighs, elbows are straight. Press against the inside of your right thigh as you twist and look over left shoulder. If you want to feel more, bend your left elbow and or move the right hand up the inside of the right thigh. 2 more deep breaths here. And then come on back up. Roll the shoulders back. Good. You can just let your heels move out now. So we're still kind of moderately wide. You can go wider if you want, makes no diff. But I'd love for you to have your feet pointing forward now, completely parallel to each other. If your hamstrings are extra tight, you can bend your knees. But if possible, we're going to hinge at the hips. And we're going to interlace our fingers behind our back. Squeeze the shoulder blades together now. And fold forward, hinging out the hips, relaxing the neck, of course, and then beginning to reach the arms up and overhead. Just a couple more breaths here. Make sure your neck feels relaxed. And then while you're still here, bring your hands or fingertips down to the mat. Now, I want you to make sure that you feel equal weight on the heel as well as on the ball of the foot, because I'm going to ask you to just walk your arms forward. like a really wide-legged down dog. But a lot of people like to crawl themselves forward and their bum is forward too. You want to keep your hips centered over your heels. Just your upper body is moving forward. And when you get your arms as far forward as you can, you kind of drape your chest down and relax your neck. Again, it should feel like a wide-legged down dog. And I want you to notice the 4 points where you are grounding both hands and both feet. So even though you're reaching forward with the hands, you're also still kind of pressing to push the hips up and back. Take one more breath here. And then you can just walk your hands back under the mat. Toe, heel the feet together. Take a really big inhale, reach the arms up. And as you exhale, come back to the front of the mat with the feet together and the hands in prayer. Really ground through your feet again so that you can lift up through the crown of the head. Just lengthen for a moment. And then on your next inhale, reach the arms up and stretch. And as you exhale, lengthen out and fold forward. Relax the neck, fingertips down. Inhale, lift up halfway, and then exhale back down. I'm going to have you move back onto hands and knees. Just take a moment to arch and round or wiggle or wag or whatever you need to do. Just kind of be mindful of how does this all feel compared to the first time you came down. Hopefully things are already starting to loosen up a little bit. So from here, we're going to just take the knees back a little farther than they were. So now, if you feel like you can, your hands reach a tiny bit farther forward. In other words, you are no longer feeling fully supported by your knees and hands. Your core is engaged here. I want you to take a moment and kind of imagine your navel pulling in towards the spine. You're not rounding your back, but you're engaging your core here. So this is a little bit of a challenge. Some of you guys are strong enough to keep moving the knees farther back or the hands farther forward. We're going to be holding this for 3 more breaths. So this strengthens your core, but with the spine in a lengthened position. One more breath. Good. And then just bring the hands back underneath the shoulders and the knees back underneath the hips. Give yourself a little bit more movement. Excellent. And then finally, take a child's pose. You may do it as an extended child's pose, or you can do it as a traditional one. But just like we did the first time through, I'd like you to really move your breath into your back and notice if it moves down there easier now. Scoot forward into Sphinx when you're ready. We're going to spend a couple of breaths here. Still lengthening. Creating space between the vertebrae. It's a very minute amount, but every little bit helps, right? When you're a vertical being, which most of us are most of the time, compression happens. And even the slightest amount of decompression can be a really, really nice thing. All right, from here, we're grounding again. Plant your hands, spread your fingers, downward facing dog. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Walk your feet forward again. Big inhale, arms come up. Exhale, palms together. And we pause. We ground through the feet so that we can rise through the crown of the head. And then we're going to turn sideways again. This time I do want you to take that wide step out, nice and wide. And we're just going to work triangle differently. So you're going to rotate your left foot in and your right foot out till it's parallel to the long sides of the mat. Both legs are going to stay completely straight. Your arms are going to go out to the side. And here's the deal. This is where they're going to stay. We're going to lift up through the chest and lengthen the right side of the spine. So what I want you to think of doing is reaching your right fingertips as far out as you can. Imagine you're trying to save someone's life. You're reaching, your right arm is straight. Now you'll notice when you're not leaning on anything, it keeps you from leaning forward or changing. This allows you to have a perfect center of gravity, perfect alignment over that right thigh. Keep reaching, reaching, reaching. You're going to feel the right side of your spine lengthening. Your right leg is working. Take one more breath. And just come up. Rotate your right foot in. Rotate your left foot out. So all that does is it makes us work a little harder, but it also keeps us from cheating. So we're going to take the arms out to the side. Both legs totally straight. Just start reaching through your left hand. Keep reaching, reaching, reaching. And don't stop. You want to keep pushing the right hip to the right, lengthening through the left side of the spine. So if you feel into your body right now, this bottom side of your torso is really lengthened. Your left leg should be really engaged. Take one more breath here. And then come on up from that. You can just step back up to the front of the mat. Roll your shoulders back a couple of times. Good. And then we're going to go ahead and step our feet to the edges of the mat. Don't worry, you're not doing another squat. You're going to inhale and reach your arms up. As you exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees a little bit if you need to, if your hips or hamstrings are tight. Now, once you're hanging forward, we're going to self-traction our neck. So what I'd like you to do is interlace your fingers behind your neck, and you have to be really mindful. It can't be behind your head. It has to be behind your neck. So your little fingers are kind of at the base of your skull, and your thumbs are by your shoulders. Then you move your elbows together. It's okay if they don't touch, but you're trying to get the elbows to squeeze together so that you can relax your neck and then relax your arms. The weight of your arms is tractioning your neck. Bend your knees as much as you need to get a somewhat vertical torso, and then just take a couple more breaths. From here, release your hands. You might want to even move your head a little bit. And then all we're going to do is have a seat. So coming onto your backside, extending your legs to come into Dandasana. As you know already, we're working on grounding. So just like we did in the beginning of class, I want you to really connect down to your sit bones. Even if you're sitting on a bolster, feel the bottom points of your pelvis. So now that we're seated, the way that we rise up instead of pushing through our feet is pushing through the base of the pelvis. And then we can lift through the crown of the head. Keep your legs somewhat active and just kind of take a moment. Notice how things are feeling. And then we'll keep the right leg straight. I want you to bring your left foot to the inside of the right thigh. Just lean out over your right leg. I prefer that you do it with your spine lengthening, but if your body is begging you to round forward, do what your body says. Take a few breaths here. And then come up from that, and we're going to pick the left foot up. I want you to flex the ankle and bring the foot on top of your right thigh. Keep your left ankle flexed and just lean out again over your right leg. So as you know, if you have a tight left hip, you'll feel your left hip here in addition to the right hamstring. If your hips are more supple, you might only be feeling the back of the right leg right now. Either one is fine. That's what's great about yoga, is you'll feel it where you need it. Now, what we're going to do from here is keep our body exactly like it is. Don't change anything. Keep your right hand wherever it is. Don't change it. Your left hand is going to reach back and come onto the top of your left thigh. Don't let your torso shift. So for some people, their torso wants to move to the left. You want to keep leaning out literally over your right leg. And then you start to press down on your left thigh. Make sure it's not your knee, but your thigh. And as you're pressing down, you're kind of rolling it outward. It's some external rotation. It will feel a little stronger than that standing, twisting spinal traction that we did. Take a couple breaths. You should feel it left hip, left side of the low back. And then come on up from that, and all we're going to do is let the left foot slide all the way across the right thigh. That left foot is completely flat. Flex your right ankle so your right leg is active. And now we're going to twist to the left. Remember, we're grounding so that we can rise up. So what I'd like for you to do is really reconnect to your sit bones, push into them, lift up through the crown of the head for that super straight spine. Then take your left hand behind you, and you can either just keep hugging your left knee, or if you want, the arm can come outside of the left leg. But we want that really straight spine, so we're lengthening it even though we're also rotating. Two more breaths. Remember, we root down to rise up. And then you can just slowly unwind. Extend your left leg out. Reconnect to your sit bones. You can give the legs a little wiggle if you need to. And then we'll keep the left leg straight. Bring the right foot to the inside of the left thigh and just lean out over your left leg. Again, lengthening would be preferable, but if your spine wants to round a little bit, that's okay. Nice deep breaths. And then we're going to come up from that. We're going to pick the right foot up, flex the ankle, bring it on top of the left thigh, and just lean out again. You might notice a real difference from right side to left side, or maybe they both feel the same. And again, you can check in and see if you're feeling it in your right hip, you know you've got some tightness there. If you're only feeling it in the back of the left leg, then you know your hips are a little more open. So right now, your body is aligned over your left leg, and you want to keep it there. Keep your left hand wherever it is. Just the right hand is going to reach back and come to the center of the right thigh. Remember, you don't want to press on your knee. You want to be on the thigh. Don't let your torso shift over. Begin to press down on the right thigh and kind of roll it outward a little bit. External rotation. Right ankle stays flexed. So where you should feel this is that right outer hip, maybe a little bit in the right side of the low back. Couple more breaths here. And we'll come on up from that. Let the right foot slide all the way across till it's completely flat on the floor. Again, grounding. So we don't want to be sloppy with how we connect downward. Left ankle flexes. We feel our sit bones again so that we can push down into the mat to lift up for a straight spine. Then we bring the right hand behind us. Maybe you bring the left arm outside the right knee, maybe not. But you want to continue feeling length in the spine as you rotate to the right. Couple more breaths. Remember, we're grounding down to rise up. And then go ahead and unwind, extend your right leg out. Give the legs a good wiggle. And then we're going to keep the feet quite far out in front of us, but we want to try and get the soles of the feet together. So don't pull them in close to you. You do want the balls of the feet to touch, but they should be way out in front of you. Reach down, clasp the ankles or the feet, lift the chest. You're just going to gently pull it forward a little bit. We want to try and keep our head and our heart up and facing forward so that we're getting some lengthening here. When we do it in this manner, we should be getting sensation across the sacrum, the backside of your pelvis, your low back a little bit, but it should be pretty gentle. Take a few breaths. And then come on up. And for those of you who want to round down, if it's okay with your back, feel free to take a couple of breaths, dropping the head and just rounding forward over the space between the legs. We'll come up from that. Extend the legs wide. Again, making sure that you can really feel the bottom points of your pelvis, that you are grounded here. Now, it depends on your body. If you have tight hips and you need to have your hands on the floor behind you so that you can actually feel your sit bones and an inner thigh stretch, then that's where your hands should stay. Those of you that normally have your hands in front of you or on your legs, we're going to do the same kind of passive stretch that we did in triangle. Only if you can keep your spine straight and your sit bones connected to the earth, should you take your hands off the ground. If you are doing that, interlace your fingers behind your back, squeeze the shoulder blades tightly and lift the arms, and allow your heart to move forward. So we do the shoulder blade squeeze and the arms lift because aside from opening our heart, it ensures that we will not cheat. You cannot hunch and round as long as the arms are lifted and the shoulder blades are squeezed. We take a couple more deep, slow breaths here. And then just come on back up. If your fingers were interlaced behind your back, release them, roll the shoulders back. And you can use your hands outside your knees to bring the legs together. And just give them a little wiggle. From here, we're rolling onto the back. So go ahead and roll on down. And as you get there, you can just hug your knees in, rock side to side. And then we're going to be doing bridge 2 ways. Even if your back only lifts a little bit, both of these will be just fine. But the first one we're going to do is a self-tractioning bridge. So I'd like you to put your feet on the mat with your big toes touching and your heels separated. For sure, we want that foot position when we're trying to lengthen ourselves. You'll notice it's the same foot position you use in Sphinx. It keeps your buns from gripping the low back. Now, before you ever lift up, I want you to locate your iliac crest. What that is the top part of your pelvis. You've got your hip bones in front. And if you kind of follow them, there's that rounded part that's the top of the pelvis. It's usually around the waist or just about the waist. You're going to make your hands like mittens, 4 fingers together, thumbs sticking out. Your thumbs are going to reach behind you, and your 4 fingers are going to hook over the front of your hip bones. So that webbing between your forefinger and thumb is hooked over the top of your iliac crest, the top of the pelvis. All right, here's what we're going to do. On an inhale, we're going to lift up, either a little or a lot. It's different for everybody. And then as you exhale, I want you to push your pelvis hard towards your knees and lift the rib cage all at the same time. You're pushing, using your strength to create some lumbar spinal length. See if you can hold it for one more breath. And then as you exhale, slowly lower your spine back down. If you need to, you can do some little wrist circles and wiggle your fingers and toes. It'll be much easier now, because what we're going to do from here is keep the feet in the same position. And now we're going to transition into those therapeutic bridge lifts. So you guys know these. You inhale to lift, you exhale to lower. You want to articulate the spine. Imagine that you're lifting up one segment at a time and pacing it back down. If you could imagine what beads on a string look like as you pick it up slowly and lower it back down, that's the motion. Remember, we're following our breath. We want that beautiful undulating spine, that wave-like motion in our spine, because we're manipulating and making our spine more flexible. Off you go. The slower you breathe, the more time you have to really feel each part of the spine moving. So we're inhaling to lift, exhaling to lower. Wherever you're at in your cycle, add 2 more full inhales and exhales. So that's 2 more times, up and down. And by the way, when you do finish those, you'll just hug your knees in and do any kind of movement that you feel like you need to. So once you've had a moment to hug your knees and rock side to side, now we're going to go into the Gentalist spinal twist, because again, we're keeping everything long and aligned. So put your feet flat on the mat, knees bent. For just a second, you're going to lift your backside up and move it over to the left, and then put it back down. So you're kind of a little bit more on your right hip now. You're off center. That's actually what we want. Keep your knees bent and your knees and feet together. Pick them up off the floor. Drop them over to the right. Let your left arm open out to the left and let your head turn that way. So right now, if you feel into your body, your spine should feel really long, very straight, and it should feel like it's parallel to the long sides of the mat. So if you kicked your hips over before you rotated, then it is actually long, straight, and parallel to the mat. So we take a few breaths here. Two more breaths on this side. And then you'll just come back up on an inhale. As you exhale, you're going to put your feet back on the mat. And of course, you're off center, right? So now we're going to go the opposite direction. So I want you to inhale and lift your bum up, and then push it way over to the right and put it down. So again, you're off center now. You're zigzag, right? Keep your bum off to the right. Knees and feet together, pick them up off the ground, knees are bent. Now they're dropping to the left, and your right arm's opening out to the right. Head is turning to the right. And if you feel into your body, you have that same long, straight spine that's slightly rotated. And your spine is most likely parallel to the long sides of your mat. So you shouldn't feel like you're jackknifed here. You should feel really straight. One more big breath in and out here. And then on an inhale, you're going to bring your legs back up. Put your feet down, lift your bum up, and now you're going to bring it back to the center of the mat. Hug your knees in and rock side to side. And then reach down and grab your feet or ankles and see what things feel like in Happy Baby. So we really haven't done too much for the periphery today, right? Arms, legs, all of that. Just notice how things are feeling. However, if we've done our job well today with lengthening the spine, we should benefit in the periphery. Our arms and legs, our neck and our head should all feel better. Part of what we're trying to do is simply bring in vitality, energy, life force. When you feel like you're ready, place your feet on the mat, ankles and knees together. And we're just going to do a little bit of that breath-centered hip roll. So as you exhale, let your knees drop a little to one side. As you inhale, bring them back up. As you exhale, drop them the opposite way. And as you inhale, bring them back up. And just do a couple more times on each side. Just let it be a fluid rolling of the hips. Because our pelvis is attached to our spine, this little bit of gentle rolling is actually helping do some final release in the low back. The next time that the knees come to the center, allow them to drop open, soles of the feet together. Just take a breath here. And then on your next inhale, you're going to just tilt the pelvis and press your low back into the mat. Hold that while you exhale. Hold it while you inhale. And on your next exhale, just release. And we'll do that one more time. Inhale, flatten the back, tilt your pelvis back, hold it and breathe. Wait for your next exhale and release. Begin to extend your legs and find Shavasana. And of course, you want arms and legs and everything to be in the right spot. Once you get everything where you want it, make sure your glutes are relaxed. And then perhaps just ever so slightly lift the shoulder blades and move them up the mat away from the pelvis, and then ever so slightly lift the head and move it away from the shoulders. Now you can be assured that you have maximum spinal length. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Big sigh through the mouth. And let it all go. Just let it all go. Feel your body releasing and surrendering down to the ground. Feel your breath surrendering to the autonomic nervous system. Feel your thoughts surrendering into the background. So with this emphasis on grounding and spinal length, we're going to do a really simple visualization or relaxation for your Shavasana today. We're simply going to breathe up and down the length of the spine. And I'm going to leave it up to you how you inhale and exhale. So in other words, maybe it still feels like you want to breathe in through your nose and breathe all the way down to your tailbone and exhale from the tailbone all the way back up the spine and out the nose. Or maybe you'd rather breathe in from the crown of the head all the way down to the base of the spine and exhale from the base of the spine all the way back up and out the crown of the head. The choice is yours. You can visualize your breath. If you are at all visual, this is a super nice thing to do. Imagine that your inhale is a pure white light coming down the spine, lengthening it and cleansing it, and that your exhale is something darker. So you're exhaling out all the stuff you need to get rid of, whatever that is. And you continue to do that almost as though you're trying to get it to run clear, if that makes sense. If you were rinsing something with water, you would rinse it until it ran clear. If you're not a visual person, imagine that you can feel energy, life force coming all the way down the spine, energizing you, enlivening you. And as you exhale, you just feel anything that you don't need leaving you. Finally, if neither of those work for you, you can talk yourself through it by saying, I'm breathing all the way down to the base of my spine. I'm breathing out and eliminating anything I don't need. Whatever method works for you, just do that for the next few moments. Begin to feel back into your body, all of the muscles, all of the bones, not just the spine. Notice how everything feels as a result, not only of your practice, but also as a result of this relaxation. Also notice any thoughts around your practice today, any stories that your mind wants to make up. And then you can start to move your fingers and toes. You can start to deepen your breath. When you're ready, extend and spread fingers and toes on an inhale. Relax them on an exhale through the mouth. On your next deep inhale, just stretch and lengthen your entire body. And as you exhale through the mouth again, just relax your entire body. Hug the knees into the chest, or if you prefer, you can just bend the knees and let them rest with your feet flat on the ground. Roll to your right side. And then go ahead and press yourself up into sitting and find your comfortable seated position. And I'd like you to just notice if it's easier for you to be aware of your sit bones and to find that really straight, lengthened, aligned spine. So just coming into that. For our pranayama practice today, we're going to do that simple hissing breath. So you'll be inhaling through your nose, breathing out through your teeth. We're just going to do it 3 times. We all breathe at different rates. And of course, we're not in the same room, so we don't know when anybody else is breathing in or breathing out. We're going to start at the same time. So we'll all do the same first inhale, but then after that, you're on your own, just 3 total. And as you finish, you'll bring your palms together in front of your heart. So here we go. Let's all start together. Deep, slow inhale through the nose. And then exhale through your teeth. So as you're finishing out, we bring our palms together in front of the heart if they're not already there. Now we take a moment in gratitude. So today, start with gratitude for your spine. Be grateful for each vertebra that helps house your spinal cord. That is what is so crucial. It's necessary for your brain and the rest of your body to be able to communicate, and our spine protects it. So we can be grateful for our spine. That's also in correspondence to our central energy channel. So we can be grateful for that because it allows us to bring in this extra life, this extra energy. And then just take a moment in gratitude for the breath that you are breathing right now. Take one more huge inhale through the nose. Big sigh. Palms to the forehead, reminding us to always be present, to pay attention. Palms to the lips, reminding us to speak our truth. And palms to the heart, reminding us to keep our hearts open so that we can always practice kindness and compassion, and to remember to turn that towards ourselves. Thank you guys for joining me today. Namaste.